Hello, my name is Gabriel from GabakUSA. In this video I'm going to teach you how to install an antminer. So in this case I made a video already how you have the antminer in front of you, and then you connect the cables and everything. But if you don't know the theory, so I'm going to teach you how you can connect everything in order to have a successful mining experience. So in this case I'm going to talk a little bit about fiber, cable, DSL and all those connections, later on about the network switch, and then the routers and everything that is related, at least for the small and medium miners. This will be very useful. Otherwise, I recommend you to watch my other classes about networking, and you will learn a lot more. So in this case, let's talk about fiber. So why is the connection important? Because it depends. I know there are some people that are from India, and other people from Canada, and other people maybe from Mexico or any other country, and not everyone have a very good connection. So most of the connection that you have in your home, like the cable modem or DSL, usually they're not very stable, and it depends on the country, of course. Here, at least in US, where I am with Time Warner's, it works great. Maybe if you have another company, or maybe if you have problem with a signal, or maybe you're a bad neighbor in a bad neighborhood, or maybe you have a lot of subscribers in the neighborhood that you are, maybe the connection is not going to be very stable. At least in the little neighborhood that I am in, everything works wonders. So wonderful. So what I'm going to tell you is fiber is the best connection. Usually is like a fiber optic that goes to your home or your office usually. So if you're going to have maybe a warehouse and all the things where you have all the miners and everything, you're going to need a very good connection. There are another type of connection, like the wireless connection, or maybe 4G connection or 5G in the future. But those connections usually they are not very stable. So the fiber, the good thing is it goes from the provider, from the ISP to your address directly, and you don't have any issue. I mean, if you have poles in between, usually there is no a need of electricity in order to provide the signal to keep the signal strong enough in order to arrive to your address. So usually it should be like that. So even if there is some problem with electricity in some other neighborhood or something like that, you should have internet no matter what. Usually you're going to have some kind of contract like a SLA. So that way, if you sign that, they will tell you, well, you have 99% of uptime or 97% uptime and all those things. Usually if you compare that with a cable modem and DSL and other things, you're going to see that those connections, there is no contract usually, and the uptime is as much as they can. If there is some power failure in the grid or something like that, you will lose the internet connection, even if you have electricity in your home. So what I'm trying to say is, let's say here you have the ISP, and then there is a pole here, another pole here, another pole here, and maybe here is your home. So what you are going to see that here, if there is some problem with the electricity from the cable that comes from all these poles, maybe here in the middle, you will see that you will lose the signal, and you will not have any internet or anything like that. Usually with DSL, because it's just copper, usually what I'm saying is not always the case, but usually it will be the same, almost like fiber. So it should be just directly, so at least you will not have this kind of a problem, like if there is some kind of power outage in one of the poles, you should still have internet. The only thing with DSL, the connection usually is not very good, and is might be very stable. So the fiber, the good thing is Besides, the uptime is very high. Also, you have a great tech support. Usually you call the knock and they answer the phone. There is no music to put you on hold and other things. So usually you have, depending on the company, is one guy in the other side say, "Hey, my name is Gabriel. How can I help you?" And they will resolve your issue very quickly. And if you need 100% uptime, you have to get to a fiber connection. So like I said, is 90. Some of the company they offer like 99% or maybe 98%, but if you need 100% all the time, get two. And later on I'm going to explain you how to you can connect both internet connection, so that way if one fails you will not realize. I mean, everything will keep working as it should. So with DSL, the good thing, I mean, the good is DSL and fiber is, I mean, DSL and cable is cheap, but usually is not very good in, at least in third world countries. Here in US is so is stable enough, depending on the amount of computers and the money that you have in your hands or in your facilities. So what I'm saying with the DSL, the connection usually, like I said, it might be so. Usually they don't tell you. I mean, if you are maybe contracting, if you are getting like 20 or 50 megabytes or something like that, is up to 50 megabytes, up to 100 megabytes, and that's it. I mean, usually it's less than that. Instead, with fiber, if you pay for 100 megabytes, that is what you're going to get. Usually in third world countries, what they do, it depends where you are, they will tell you, yeah, we will give you 50 megabytes. But they don't tell you anything else. So what they do, usually they will say, well, it's 50 megabytes just locally for all the servers in this country, but if you want internationally, it's 20 or it's 5 or something less. Something of that kind. I seen it, I live it. So when I was living abroad, I saw those kind of things. So that is one of the things that you have to keep in mind. Other thing that is very important is the delay or the lag. Usually with fiber, the lag is very short, very little. And with cable and DSL is much more. So if you're thinking, well, why should I care? Another thing, well, the thing is, when you are mining, it's very important that you have very low latency and the connection will be stable, because some pools, they will penalize you if you have very high latency and the connection is not stable. Maybe it's dropping every once in a while or every few hours or something like that, and then you will start losing money. So that is very important that you have a very good internet connection. Another thing that you have to keep in mind is when you have a fiber, they are going to give you one box that comes the fiber to that box, and from that box it has a connection, this RG45, and it goes to another modem, and from that modem you connect whatever else you want to connect, a server or maybe another router or something like that. In the other modem that they provide you, you will get the public IP. And with the cable modem, usually it's the coaxial cable goes here, and from here just the Ethernet cable in this case, and goes to the router, and that's it. So if you're going to have a cable or DSL, try to get your own box if that is possible. Try to buy the highest quality. Search on Amazon. I'll try to leave in some link on the video description, and try to search for the modem with the highest speed that you can get, also with the highest rank that you can get. Otherwise you're going to have some issue, like I said before. If your connection is not working well, you're going to start having some issue with the miner. So another thing that you have to keep in mind is try to get a modem, cable modem, or modem for DSL or whatever, without Wi-Fi. No Wi-Fi at all. Just keep it simple and it works fine, because Usually when you have something with Wi-Fi and you have your own Wi-Fi, or maybe their Wi-Fi is not very powerful enough, it may bring all kind of problems. So try to keep it simple. Also, if you're going to use it just for your mining farm and all those things, you don't need any Wi-Fi. So if you want to have like high security, avoid Wi-Fi, and that will be the best option. Also here, I'm going to tell you, here we have the plug. So the plug, we can connect it to power strip. So in this case, you have different kind. You have the one that comes with a power source. Also, you have the one that comes with IP. So yeah, IP outlet. So that way you can switch it on, switch it off, any of those outlets, and that way if something goes wrong, maybe the modem, the cable modem froze or something like that, you have to restart it. And if you have a big miner facilities, you don't want to go just walk few meters or feet away or whatever, a big distance, to just to power cycle the unit. So what you want to do is just power cycle the unit from your computer. So if you can get something that comes with IP, great. So that way, if you're inside of your network, great, you're going to be able to do that. If you are outside, maybe accessing via VPN and all those things, if you do that, usually you will lose the connection, and also it may bring you any other issue, except if you have maybe some power switch that you can say, okay, just disconnect this unit for 2 minutes and then it will reconnect, it will switch it on once again. I mean, after that period of time, and that you're good, even if you're outside of the network, because you know you're not going to lose the connection with this. I mean, it will just restart the connection by itself. That is my advice. Also, if you see, I don't know, poles everywhere, that the connection comes from the air, try to get some kind of surge protector, so that way if there is a lining or something like that, you will not get damaged, your cable modem will not get damaged. Usually that happens with the DSL or cable modems. If you have fiber, it doesn't conduct the electricity, so you will not have any issue. With everything else, yeah, you will have some problem. And next step, if you, I mean, the cable, the brand, just in case before I go to the next subject here, the router, the good brands, usually Motorola, Cisco. Cisco is a very good brand. Zoom, I bought one of those brands, and usually those are very good. So make sure if you're if you're paying for 100 megabytes or 200, something like that, and if you're buying your own, make sure that it has the highest speed, otherwise you're not going to be able to use all the speed that you're paying for. Also, now we have the switch, the router. So in this case we have the router. You can use maybe Linksys, TP-Link or something like that, but usually those are not very good. I mean, yes, they are good just if you want to use it in your home, but if you want to use it for commercial purposes, no, I don't recommend that. You will have some kind of issue in the future that they will start having some difficulties. So what I recommend is MikroTik. Usually MikroTik works great, so if you want to use, you can use MikroTik or Cisco. MikroTik, I like it because they are not that expensive and they are very powerful. So if you don't know, I have another video that I talk the differences between a home router and a professional one. So in that case, I'm going to try to make a resume about that. But usually the Linksys or TP-Link or all those brands, maybe Netgear, they have like a very low power consumption microprocessor, like maybe 100 megahertz or 200 megahertz or something like that, and maybe 24 megabytes of RAM, and that's it. And if you compare it with MikroTik, usually they have very good routers, and they are offering like 1 gigahertz of speed, 2 cores, 4 cores, and more, even 48 or 96 core, and with 4 gigs of RAM. So you can get whatever you want. Also, if you want, you can use any computer in order to build your own router, but that will be for another video shortly. So what I'm trying to say, if you are going to get a router that is MikroTik, try to get something with 2 cores or 4 cores or more. So if you can get something with that or above, that will be great. Also try to get something with 128 megabytes of RAM or more. That will be more than enough, at least for if you have a small or medium farm. So in this case, what I recommend you for the next step, I mean, in this case also to the outlet. So here, everything, this power strip that I have here, you can connect it to UPS. So if you don't know what is an UPS, it's like a battery backup in case if there is a power surge or something like that, or blackout in your neighborhood or something, your equipment will keep working for many hours. It depends on the equipment that you use here. If you have to buy an UPS or battery backup, what I recommend is APS. That is very good brand. Usually with that brand you can connect it to a server or almost any other device, and that way if there is some problem with the electricity, even the unit, there are some units that allow you to connect the Ethernet card here, and that way if there is some issue or something like that, the same unit will send you some email or maybe a text message saying, hey, there is some problem with the electricity, come and see what's going on. So that is very good. So it has alarms and all those things. Also here we are going to talk now about the switch. So the switch, you can, if you want, you can buy MikroTik. Maybe if you want to buy Ubiquiti, that is another brand. Or if you want to buy a Cisco, here you have two kinds. You have the simple, the basic, and you have the managed. So I recommend, if you can buy the managed, that will be the best option, because it has a lot of options, and one of the main reasons for this kind of switch that are managed is because it has some feature that is called span tree. So if you buy something with the span tree, the good thing is if someone comes in your network and they say maybe a Ethernet cable that is hanging, and they say, oh, it's hanging, and they see another port that is free, and they're going to grab it and connect it, and what they do is they're going to do a loop in the network, and you will see that the network is going to stop working, and you will be thinking, well, what's going on? And then you'll start searching for all the miners, all the computers and everything, until you call maybe someone like me, and they will say, no, someone did the loop, and then that is why things are not working. So with this kind of switch, that is great. You can disable one port, or if it has that feature, it will just block those ports that are doing a loop, and your network will keep working. So that is amazing. That is good. It's a very good thing to keep in mind. So another thing, if you're going to, I said the brand, so here, if you don't know, you can get maybe 16 ports, 48 ports. Usually if you can put everything in a rack, I have another videos that I talk about that too, so that way you can have a professional looking network, and also it will be easier, and you're not going to have like cables hanging everywhere and all those things. So that is what I recommend. Also cables, if you're thinking, well, today is 2018 and beyond, you should use at least Cat6, I know the miners, they are not going to start generating a lot of traffic or anything like that, but it's future proof. So in case if you're thinking, oh, maybe I'm going to add maybe a few servers, so I'm going to do something else with all the installations and all the things, amazing, you can do that. That will help you to create more revenue, and you will have all the cable already. Don't use Cat5. I don't recommend it. It's kind of old school right now. Also, if you're going to buy, try to buy outdoor, because always is more resistant in case there is some kind of accident, someone is trying to mess with the cable or something like that, or maybe have a rat or something. It will resist a little bit more. Even if you have rats or maybe any other animal or something like that, what I recommend is to put all the cables inside of the tube, so that way you will avoid any of those things. So if you're thinking, well, I'm going to put everything in a huge warehouse in the middle of nowhere, and you have maybe rats and other things, try to keep that in mind. I've seen that problem before with some customers. So if you're going to use a cable, okay, what kind of cable you're going to use? Cat6, the good thing is, I mean, it supports more speed. Also, if you have some kind of RF interference, it will be better to prevent it. Also, if you can get the SFTP cable, or you can use the SUTP cable, those are shield cables. They have an extra layer of protection, so that is great to protect you from any kind of interference, because I don't know where you are going to install all those things. Maybe, I don't know, maybe in the future some radio station comes along, or maybe some tower for internet or for whatever, they're coming next to you, and you want to be alert. I mean, you want to prevent those things. So if something like that happens, or you have some problem with electricity or whatever, you will protect your network from any interference. Like I said before, if you have some interference or something like that with the cable, usually that doesn't happen, but if it does, you have that in mind, and it will help you to avoid any lagging or latency or any other intermittence on the network. So that is another thing. So, okay, now we have the Ethernet. Another thing that you can do is here, once you have all those things here, if you have a computer, in this case you need just one computer. I recommend you to use Windows, because at least it works great with MikroTik. If you have to do something like that, Windows 7 works great. Windows 10, yeah, you can use it, but it has a lot of problem with the privacy issues, so try to avoid using that. If you want to use Mac, yeah, use Mac for everything else, or Linux. Usually with Mac you will be okay, at least if you have to set up everything. The Windows is basically more to set up the MikroTik, or maybe if you have a switch or something like that, it needs a Windows, or maybe with Mac it doesn't work well. At least for today, they don't have a Winbox. If you know MikroTik, they have a software that is called Winbox. There is some versions for Mac, but usually they don't work that well. But that is one thing that you have to keep in mind. I mean, if you want to use 100% Mac, I'm good with that. Maybe you can run some kind of virtual machine inside, and that will solve that issue. But that is what I'm saying. Another thing that you have to keep in mind with the cable, with the Ethernet cable, is if you are going to buy cable, 100% copper. Don't buy the cheap cable, buy the expensive one. I know it's expensive, but you will be thinking, well, but I have to run a lot of cable. Maybe I see another place is selling the cable for $50 less or $20 less. No, buy 100% copper. You will be okay. You're going to find that some places they sell 100% copper, amazing. Some places 50% copper, 50% aluminum, and maybe another place that they will sell you cable will be 100% aluminum, and that is terrible, very, very bad. So you're going to have a lot of problems with that. Other than that, if you're going to get a generator, try to get Honda. Honda is great. Don't buy the cheap ones. Usually they have all kind of problems. Remember, if you have maybe 3 miners, okay, that's good. But if you have 100, 200, 500, you don't want to, you know, to keep them sleeping. I mean, you want them to be running all the time. So in order to avoid that, you have to get some generator just in case. There are a few options. If you want to buy one with gasoline, okay, it's good, but I'm going to tell you the good and the bad. The good, yes, usually they're cheap, they're noisy, so you have to keep them working somewhere else. And they pollute the environment, so don't put them in the same place with the miners. The other thing that you have to keep in mind is, yes, once a month you have to make them run, or you have to purge all the fuel and everything, otherwise it will get rotten, the fuel inside, and when you want to use the generator, it will not work and it will have all kind of problems. So another thing that I've seen with these kind of generators is if you can buy them with the gas option, that is amazing. So I think there are few that works with propane or maybe with natural gas, and the good thing is the gas is gas. The gas, it will not get rotten, it will not stop working, it will not damage your equipment. You just close the valve and that's it. You don't have any other problem with the fuel. That is my advice. Yes, you can buy if you want. If you're thinking, well, what about diesel? Well, diesel is the same thing. The fuel will not last forever, and you have to renew it or empty the tank and all those things. So that is my advice, at least with these kind of things. Or if you want, you can go solar, or maybe a wind turbine or something like that. But that will be another story. But that is one of the things that you have to keep in mind. So here you have the cable modem. You connect it to the switch. To the router. From the router to the switch. That is how it's very simple. It's RG45 to the connector that says 1. In case if you're getting a MikroTik, all the LAN ports are the same, so you can set them up the way you want it. And the other from the LAN to the switch, and that's it. Basically, and from here you connect all the miners, and that is how you can make them run. So another thing that I recommend a MikroTik, if you're thinking, well, why MikroTik again? Is one of the things is because you can set it up or configure it the way you want it. So if you want to say, okay, port 1, port 2, they're going to be connected with the fiber, and that is great. So with this you can, or if you want to say no, maybe port 5 or 4 or something like that, you can select whatever you want. But besides that, what you can do with MikroTik is you can have a failover. So that feature you can set it up on this unit, so if one connection fails, all the traffic will go over there. Also you can do something else, it's called load balance. So if you want to use load balance, in this case load balance, if you have one connection that has a lot of traffic, it will try to redirect the rest of the traffic to the second connection, and that way you will be using both. And that way, if you have a lot of traffic for some reason besides running the miners, I mean, maybe you want to run something else, that will help you. Also, another thing with MikroTik is that you can see all the traffic. So if you have maybe 100 miners or maybe 50 or whatever is the amount that you have, you're going to see all the traffic. I mean, which one is sending packets or not, or if you want to see a new miner, is you connect one miner to the network and you want to see, okay, there is a new one, and then you can access it. You can set it up as with a static IP, so that way you don't have to go unit by unit and set it a static IP. You can do everything from the MikroTik, so that is amazing. I like that a lot. Also, another thing that you can do with this is you can create a VPN, so that way, let's say that you're outside of your network, you're in your home, maybe you want to access to the unit, and then you create one user with a password, and that's it. You have the credentials just for the new guy, or for, in this case, you. Or if you want me to see your configuration and everything else, and you want me to help you to maintenance all the network and everything else, you can give me the credentials. I can access your MikroTik, and that way I can access everything that you have inside of the network, and I don't need to have access to one computer. Otherwise, you have to get maybe to this computer a TeamViewer access, and then from here you have to you can access everything else. Another thing that you can see with the MikroTik that I like is if you are having some kind of attacks or something like that, you can see all those things. Also, you can block all the attacks. You can see all the resources in the CPU, the memory, and everything. So if something is wrong, you want to protect everything, block, you can do everything with the MikroTik. If you are going to use, maybe, like I said before, maybe an ASUS or Linksys or TP-Link or one of those, they are very limited, so you're not going to be able to do much. And now that you have connected the modem to the router, to the switch, so now you can connect all your miners here. So very easy, miner, then power supply to surge protector. I recommend surge protector. Yeah, you could use a UPS or battery backup like I mentioned before, but it's going to get very expensive, because usually if you have to buy one for each one of them, or you have to buy one big one for all of them, yeah, it may cost you a lot. But in this case, what I recommend is buy some kind of surge protector, in case if there is lightning, I don't know, a surge on the power grid or something like that, you will be protecting all your power supplies, and try to keep them working in a place where it's very cold, all the heat that will go out. And this you can connect them everything. You can connect them to the generator in case if there is some kind of issue, some problem with electricity. You can power them up, and you will keep working, and everything will be fine. The only thing that I have to keep you in mind, just to remind you, is if you're going to have a cable or DSL, who knows if that is going to work, because if you power up everything and you don't have electricity maybe in one of those poles that I've been shown before, you're not going to have any internet, and even if you have all the miners up and running with electricity, it will be useless, because you're not going to be able to connect to internet and they will not work. So you need to be able to be connected 100% of the time, all the time. Worst case scenario, if you cannot access fiber, try to get cable and DSL, or maybe two connections, and setting up this unit like that, the router with failover and load balance, you're going to be able to work 24/7, no problem. So this was a small class about this. I hope this was useful. Remember, if you want to see my other classes about networking and everything else, you can buy them on my computer, on my website, GabakUSA.com. Also, if you want to hire me, you can do it on the cell phone that you're going to see on the screen, or in the video description, or in my website. You can email me as well. Thank you for everything. I hope you have enjoyed this class, and see you in the next one. Bye.